Hey, what's going on, you guys? I actually didn't mean to make that thing go off. It's tinkering with Loria's stuff, but yeah, I guess too, like confetti and little cupcakes. I'm here to debate with you that little is mighty. How you guys doing tonight? It's Elizabeth Marasco, and I want to share with you a little bit of food for thought, pun totally intended, and it's good. But listen to this. A few years ago, we went through some family dynamic changes. And prior to, I used to host these events at my house where we would have, honestly, 40 people easily on a Sunday afternoon. So that always meant that we had desserts. And if it was a holiday, forget about it. It was literally like a table full of like full pies and cakes and pastries and cannolis and petit fours and all that good stuff. Baklava. We always had to have baklava. That's another thing. But as things changed, we ended up getting to a dynamic where it was more like my two boys and my mom that were gathering. Instead of having to cook for 40 people, it did make it easier. But it also kind of changed some things that we did with even dessert. So one of the things I started doing were like little petit four trays and having little things that, like little pies and little pastries. And it was actually put together in a really pretty way, so it made it special. And it was all these little teeny tiny things that the boys or some guests that we would have come over could pick up a little nibble, right? And I don't know, kind of made me start evaluating what other things are really wonderful that are tiny. And I think that little is a key word for success in so many ways of our life, whether it's having an awesome dessert buffet or even steps that we start making in our personal life or our professional life. So often people want to make these quantum leaps into something new, but often when you do a great big biteful of something, you can't swallow it. So having the ability to do little bite-sized nuggets for your business or a personal objective that you want to achieve, that can help you get there. So often people think, just like the cutoff thing of it all being done at once. Well, sometimes it's these little teeny tiny things that can make a huge difference. And one of the first places that I actually learned this was when I worked at Ford Motor Company. I worked in advanced electronics and prototype. So I worked with a lot of engineers, specifically a lot of software engineers that were tied into electronics. And I had a chance to do some of the little experiments that they were always doing. Software engineers are always coming up with something and want to find how it works in the real life. And this one particular time, I was working with a gentleman named Ken Moore, who was working on key fob technology, those things that you use to unlock your car door. We spent about 2 weeks in a parking lot walking around that different cars, different models, benchmarking it, and then finding out different radius points. And it was the slightest little thing, the slightest little difference. And through those measurements, it allowed them to find different ways to improve the technology and make it better. But they weren't like biting it off in one hunk. No, they took little tiny fragments to do an analysis to find out what was better, why was it better, and breaking it down. I think so often people just want the end result, and they don't look at like the little things that you can do to get there, or how quickly little tiny things can add up to be something absolutely incredible. Growing up, I had a dad who was absent a lot. For those of you that don't know me, I'm actually the daughter of, I'm a firstborn generation American. So my dad would often, take off. And my mom raised 5 kids essentially on her own. And at one point, she ended up getting a job at Henry Ford Hospital in West Bloomfield, Michigan. And she started off first doing like cleaning instruments, and then she ended up going back to night school, and then getting a I don't know what it was, like a medical something, and then she ended up getting into nursing, and she kept adding on her education a little by little by little. And when she was in that process, they had a gentleman that came to the hospital for setting up retirement accounts. This is like back in the 80s or something like that. And at the time, she wasn't making that much money at all. And she had 5 kids she was trying to raise. But she had a vision in her mind that she was going to start saving a little bit of money. So what she ended up doing was committing to doing like $5 a week that she was going to take out of her check. And the guy started laughing at her. And, it was a little bit humiliating. There was other people that, were dealing with a different career at the time. She was just starting, So she did it anyway. She's kind of hard-willed that way. But she ended up doing it anyway. And then eventually, as she continued with her education and learning and growing, and eventually she worked in dermatology, and she worked in allergy, I think, for like 30 years. And through that, she kept saving. And then fortunately, she had a retirement fund when she finally retired like 10 years ago or something. But if she would have listened to that first guy, she wouldn't have done it. And if she would have listened to the snickers of some of her friends that were maybe not on the right track of trying to build a career and raise kids the right way, maybe she wouldn't have had that career at Henry Ford Hospital. So all those things, they add up. And I want to remind you of that. You don't have to look at like what's the big thing that you got to do. You keep taking little teeny tiny baby steps towards it, whether it's something that you want to fix and perfect, or a new goal that you have, or a vision, or something that you want to change. A key phrase that I say all the time, is baby steps. You don't have to run. You don't have to do quantum leaps. You just keep taking baby steps. And those eventually add up to become something phenomenal. So if you've been stuck with trying to take those quantum leaps, let me know in the comments below. And I've been guilty of it. I have to remind myself of that. In fact, one place that a lot of people will end up getting into, tiny cake. I don't know who said it, but hi. Yes, it was. Little teeny tiny cupcake. Isn't that cute? And it's better too for calories. You get a little nibble, you get your sweet spot filled, and then you can walk away. So how does this apply to all of us as, business leaders, these baby steps? Well, I want you to start looking at even tasks that you have to do for your project or your organization or business, or this new vision of what you want to accomplish, and start to look at what are the core things that only you can do, only you. And then look at what are things that maybe you don't have to do, that you could delegate to somebody else. I think it was Peter Drucker, who's that old economist, and he said something along the line of, if you can have a task accomplished by somebody else, and they can do it at 80% of the capacity that you would do it as you're growing, trying to get into bigger things, that's when you have that other person do that thing. And then you fill in the 20% and go back and perfect and critique the way that you want it. But if you're trying to do all of the steps, all the baby steps, and take on this big project, you start to become diluted. Then all of a sudden you go from being the big picture to now you're a diluted fragment of it because it's so overwhelming. So consider this the next time that you start to work on a project, or you see something that you want to change in your life, that you absolutely can, but you've got to take baby steps and little bite-sized nuggets to help you get there. And, and I feel like it's kind of been that way through this whole Lita challenge that we're going through, of looking back, I can see little pieces of transformation, little positive changes that I'm experiencing, and I'm even witnessing it with some of you. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful to have a chance to see how you can grow with baby steps, and just realize that, all those things add up with time. Just like, have you ever looked at, you remember those sand glasses, those timers, and you turn it upside down and the little drops of sand go dropping down. And then eventually, what do you have? You've changed like time as it disappears. All those little things disappear and become something bigger on the other end. And, that stressful thought can come when you look at the whole mountain. Don't look at the whole mountain. Look at those little tiny things that you can do. What's that say? It's such a great reminder, and I needed it as I'm so impatient with my projects. I can be too. I think that we can be too. And then sometimes we even get intimidated by how big something looks. So instead, we do nothing. So one of my favorite bands from the 80s was Rush, and there's a line in one of their songs: if you choose not to decide, you've still made a choice. So if you're looking at something really huge that you want to accomplish in your life, doing nothing is still making a choice to do something, which is nothing. So instead of doing nothing, start taking little steps towards where you want to go, where you want to kind of roll things out, and have fun with it. Have fun with these new visions of something absolutely fantastic. I don't know who said it, if it was Bruce Lee, but if they said, if you think something tiny can't make a difference, try sleeping in a room with a mosquito. I think it was him. It was something like that. But it's true. So those little things can add up and create something absolutely amazing. But part of it is you got to be willing to break it down into baby steps. Maybe allow some people to take over some of the things that you don't need to do. Also, don't allow other people to interfere when you're in the process of taking those baby steps, for them to say, yeah, it's not big enough, it doesn't make a difference. It does make a difference. And on a last note, I'm going to share this with you too, and I hope that you take this back to your individual communities, online and offline, is those little things add up really quick, especially when it comes to community impact. So doing things like volunteering, getting involved, donating, doesn't necessarily have to be, I made a $5,000 donation. That $5 donation is huge. The person that doesn't have $5 to donate, that 5 hours of volunteer time is incredible. Incredible. It changes lives. But if everybody sat there and thought, it's not going to make a difference if I'm involved, what a sad world we would be in. So do your part. If you can see what's happening in your local community, see if you can do something to tie back in your online project to support your favorite nonprofit. Those things add up. And I hope that you do it, because ultimately, I know this sounds cheesy, but I'm telling you for a fact, ultimately, when you give back in any kind of way to those organizations, whether small or huge, you end up getting the most incredible gift. And you can't understand it until you experience it. So find something that you're passionate about. Start taking those baby steps and start saying, heck yeah, I'm doing it. What's Christina say? Volunteering, donating, awesome ideas. It does make a difference. It really does. And I think that when you have a chance to see some of the end stories of all those baby steps, it's pretty incredible. So I wish you tons of baby steps towards all of your success. Stay positive and just keep taking it one little baby step at a time. All right. And cheers to cake. We'll see ya. Bye.